Welcome to I'm an Asset podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Brianne Smith.
And I'm your other host, Zachary Wilson.
And
Today,
you go.
nope. Let's restart that.
Welcome to I'm an Asset podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Brianne Smith.
And I'm your other host, Zachary Wilson.
And today we're going to talk about if you're a college student, you've got some extra cash, or you're starting to earn some money, where do you keep your money?
This is a good question that maybe not a lot of college students are asking because not a lot of college students have money. But one thing all college students are probably thinking of is, where am I going after college? You know, do I want to get a house? Do I want to have this? Do I want to have that? Either any person, they're going to need money after college. And a good way to have money, kind of built up is through investing. So I just had some questions about, like, what should I do with my money to best set my future self up? And so I had some questions for the expert here, and we're going to dive right into that.
Yeah, well, I think it's a couple of considerations that I want to make sure we touch on today is not only investing, but also like banking relationships and, advisory or professional financial service relationships. And at what point do you need to be relying on someone and some professional advice? And then also the different types of accounts you can have, because just because you have some extra cash doesn't necessarily mean that you need to run and lock it up in an IRA or something if you actually need it. So I thought this were some good questions that you were asking earlier today. So let's get started. Which you want to start with?
Maybe just like, how much money, how much money should I have in my savings account before I need to do something with it?
Yeah, this is a really good question. And actually, it's not really limited to just college age. It's a good time to start the habit of this, though, because it's something that I think you will follow along with your whole life, even when you're retired, is that I like a good 3 to 6 months of just living expenses to be in my savings account. And this gives me the ability to quickly jump on an opportunity or, replace an AC unit, which we had to do last year, or something like that. Now, there are definitely investment accounts that you can still get your money back out for a big emergency. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But when you think about how much money you spend every month on gas, food, rent, and just going out or general entertainment, utilities, phone, what's 3 to 6 months of that? And then anything above and beyond that, let's put it somewhere else to earn you some money.
Yeah, because, hopefully you already have a budget to where you can quickly figure what that number is. But, it's also important to keep in mind, if your money is just sitting in a place not doing anything, that's an opportunity that hasn't been taken advantage of. When, instead of sitting in an account, your money could be, making
dividends and interest. Yeah. But then the other issue with having too much money in your savings account is this, it's kind of like an invisible ghost thing that it just actually disappears because it's so easy to spend when it's just sitting in your account. So I have some clients who we are on purpose not keeping a whole lot in their savings account because they have said to me, even in fact, somebody said this to me today, you cannot trust me to have this money in my account. I'm going to spend it all. And so just having it just one little step away, not inaccessible, because they can certainly get to it if they need it, but it's a couple of steps away from being just easily transferred into the checking account and spent, on some kind of impulse buy. So not only having emergency savings, but also thinking about what's your personality with money, because if your personality is you can't hold yourself, you give boundaries for yourself or give yourself some rules about how much you're going to spend or stick within a budget, you might need to lock it up somewhere a little bit harder to get to.
I like that. That's good. So now that we've kind of established what is a good level for maybe starting to invest? What are some like beginner level investments? And maybe we can build on that.
Yeah. So, not talking specifically about what to invest your money in, but
Yeah.
what kind of accounts to put them in.
Yeah.
That's
Not
what
a specific stock, but like
specific type of account.
maybe like,
Yeah.
do you go for stocks or bonds or
So let's
high
compare
yield
some.
savings account?
Yeah, that one's the hot button topic right now too, or it was at least last year when the interest rates were a little higher. A lot of people were trying to put their money in high interest savings accounts that were offered at their bank or kind of an online bank. So at your just regular run of the mill bank down the street, you can have a checking account, a savings account. You could generally get a money market account. Money market accounts are not invested in the stock market, but they do generally earn some type of interest rate, which fluctuates over time. And then there's also CDs or certificates of deposit. And this is where you actually buy a product at a bank called a CD, and there's a fixed amount of interest that you get for a period of time that they tell you. So last year, a lot of people were getting CDs because the interest rates were higher last year. They've come down quite a bit since then, but you could get a 6-month or a 10-month or 12-month CD, and you put your money in the CD and then you get interest in return, but it's locked up for that period of time. You can't use that money.
Is that like a bond?
No, it's different from a bond. So a bond is a type of investment that you would, it's like a fixed income investment that you would purchase inside of an investment account.
So a bond, you lend money and then you received fixed payments
Interest payments.
until you have everything. Is it you're just receiving interest and then when it matures,
You get the
you get
proceeds back.
you get like the principal back?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then how is a CD different?
A CD is different because you get the interest at the end and it's not debt. Like you're not a creditor, you're not lending money to the bank. You're giving your cash to the bank and your bank is in return giving you interest, but it's not a fixed income loan type debt equity scenario.
Okay. So you're the bank is not like you're not giving a loan to somebody, but you are getting fixed interest payments.
Mm-hmm.
Are they at least similar in that way?
They are similar in that way, in that you get interest in return.
Well, cool. So how easy is it to like do that? Can you just go to your bank today and do that?
Yeah, it's pretty easy to do. So the thing I want everybody to understand about the different types of accounts is knowing where you are getting your account from and what they offer. Because when you go to a bank, a lot of times they will only tell you about the types of accounts that they offer, but they are not the only types of accounts that you can utilize to invest your money.
Mm-hmm.
So I just shared with you the types of accounts that you can get at a bank. It's really easy to just go sit down with a representative at a bank and open up an account and put your money in it. And I generally encourage people to have a good banking relationship because especially when you're in college now, over time, you're going to want a car loan, a house loan. You might want to buy, a rental property or business accounts. So it's good to have that relationship start. Other places outside of a bank that you can invest are with brokerage firms like Charles Schwab, Fidelity, Vanguard, National Financial Services,
Robinhood.
Does
a Market Watch, or is that like a Yahoo thing?
Market Watch is like a educational service.
Does Yahoo have brokerage accounts?
No, Yahoo's also not educational, news and information.
News and information.
Yeah. So there used to be TD Ameritrade, which Charles Schwab bought TD Ameritrade. There's a lot of options out there. So LPL Financial is another example. These are like banks, but that we call them custodians. So they hold your money like a bank would hold your money, but you have extra options as far as what you can invest your money in
Hmm.
and the types of accounts that you can have at these custodians.
So, don't custodians also offer like high yield savings accounts and stuff like that?
You can, yes. Uh-huh.
So, why wouldn't someone just keep all their money with a custodian? Why would they also go to a bank?
Generally, you have your running around money at a bank.
Hmm.
I do have some clients who they write checks out of this directly out of their investment account. It's a little complex to do that because every time you want to spend money, we need to make sure to raise the cash out of your investments and make it
Hmm.
spendable, and where it's not invested in a stock or a bond or
Right.
something. But generally people have a banking relationship where they have a checking and a savings account, and then above and beyond money, we've got it with the brokerage or custodian where we've got it actually invested in the stock market. But just like at a bank where there's different options for types of accounts, you have different options for types of accounts at a custodian too. So you might have heard IRAs. I think
Hmm.
we've talked about IRAs before.
Yeah.
So there's a Roth IRA, a traditional IRA. You have a limit on how much money you can put into these every year. But then you can also have what we call a taxable account or an individual account. And these are like savings accounts because you can you can put as much money in as you want and take as much money out as you want without a limit because they're just outside of a qualified account like an IRA. So the benefit of having some of your money in an investment account is it can be invested in the stock market and grow at a more advanced pace than just the interest from a money market account or a CD.
Right. But it's important to recognize that with the potential to yield more, there's also more risk.
That's
So,
right.
is there anything you want to say about that?
About risk? Yeah. So there's not a perfect uh, answer portfolio for
Hmm.
everybody across the board. Everybody's going to be different because everybody has a risk appetite. So, how well they can handle how risky our investments are. But then everybody is also in different seasons of life. So, if you are in the accumulation phase where you are not anywhere near retiring
Mm-mm.
that I know of,
I wish.
and you're starting to build your wealth or accumulate your wealth. So you're in the phase where you've got a long time before you need it. You've got a long working life ahead of you and a long time horizon. So you're accumulating over an expanded period of time. You could actually stand to take on more risk because you have a long time to earn and you have a long time to recover if anything happened, with your investment accounts. So it's not the same season as someone who is maybe inside 5 years from retiring, or someone who is actually in retirement or decumulation phase where we're spending our investments now. So where you are on the risk profile not only depends on your personality, but also what season of your life are you in?
Interesting you say that. I would think it would be the other way around, in that when you're younger and you need more money, you would be a little safer because, if you were to lose an investment, where else are you going to get the money? Whereas when you're older, you already have accumulated much wealth and you can stand to lose a little bit more, so you could possibly try to get more out of your investments.
I think we're looking at it a little bit differently because what I'm saying is you have income coming in because you work a job.
Hmm.
So where you would get the money if you, let's just say you lost it all,
Yeah.
is you're still working.
Okay.
You're still getting money from your job. Someone who's retired is not getting money from a job. So if they lost everything, it would be a lot different to recover because they don't have the earning wage that you do.
That's a good way to look at it. I'm glad you clarified.
Yeah, so I think too, the way you feel about risk changes over your life as well.
Definitely.
And I like to say there's a lot of research that shows that it's never too late to start, and the earlier you start saving, the better, because no amount of risk really, and aggressiveness in the market can overcome your lack of saving in general. Like if you wait and you don't save your whole life, you can't just like be really risky, really close to retirement to recover all those years of not saving at all.
Yeah.
So it's just good to at least get started and get into the habit of having your money in investments.
Yeah. So let's see. Is there anything else on our board here, or like, what should we move to next?
Well, I think we've covered everything except maybe tax consequences. And I think this is why we started talking about this today, because you've got different family members in your life who have been investing for you while you've been alive, and you're starting to get those accounts.
Yeah.
So as we're trying to do your tax return now, the question has come up, where are the tax documents for these accounts and whose actual Social Security number are they in? So I really wanted to share this with our, especially college age or high school age students who might have parents or grandparents who are saving money for them.
Yes, I've heard, this is not just something my family does. Like I've heard plenty of people will have maybe like a grandfather or something, or maybe even their own like parents have made an account when they were first born, and they just had money kind of growing that was specially set aside for them, that when they reached age, they could take on that money and invest it further or use it for what they need. And then also, I've heard it's becoming more popular to utilize platforms like Greenlight, where people will parents will teach their kids how to invest with an application that allows them to supervise them. And that's a really good idea in my opinion. So I think this is good to talk about. Like one thing I've heard was, we were talking about this the other day, was like kiddie tax.
Yeah.
Explain that, please.
This actually came up with your brother was in the room too. So yeah, there's a kiddie tax. The kiddie tax concept is really created to prevent people for investing in their children's Social Security numbers and saving tax because you're in a lower income tax bracket than your parents. And so what the rule is until you're 17, if you have more than a certain amount of investment income, you're subject to the same tax rate that your parents are. And so it just eliminates the opportunity to give you all my wealth, and then you pay your lower income tax rate on it instead of me. And then you just take care of me, right? So a lot of times that's really complicated because you have to coordinate those two tax returns together. But in addition to the tax question is when your parents are really the green light concept or investing for you since you were a baby, those accounts are in your parents' or grandparents' Social Security numbers. So your grandparents or parents or family members are saving for you and investing for you, and maybe even have your name in the title of the account somewhere or as a beneficiary of the account, but they have the burden of the tax consequences of that your whole life until they turn that over to you, put it in your name and your Social Security number. So that's really where we're kind of like at in this transition of whose accounts are these on this year's taxes. And usually the year of transition, there'll be two tax forms. The final one for whoever gave it to you and your first one for now it's in your name. And so that's something to really think about too, and something that really can be a surprise if you didn't know that you had that account. So
yeah, I agree. That's important to recognize. I have a couple more questions. With like, let's say I'm 16 and I open a brokerage account. I'm allowed to do that, right? If I start making money and I'm getting gains on the sale of my investments or dividends or whatever, does that mean my parents are paying that tax, or I am paying the taxes in my parents' bracket?
You're paying the taxes in your parents' bracket. Now, until your age majority, which is 18 or 19, you can't have a brokerage account only in your name. You still have to have a parent involved
Oh,
in
okay.
that or name
I
on
see.
that until you get old enough, but it can still be in your social security number at that age.
Cool.
And then, yes, once you have a certain amount of investment income, it's around the $3,000 or $4,000 range. Then you're now subject to this tax
All right.
or be taxed at that tax rate.
Interesting. Okay. I think I just have one more thing I want to talk about, and then if you have anything else, we'll wrap this up. And that is, you listed a bunch of custodian companies earlier,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm beginning to I'm trying to make the decision soon of which one I want to use.
Yeah.
It would be a lot easier for me. I don't everyone's different, but it would be my preference to have one
Mm-hmm.
that I move, I have my bank account, I move money over to an investment account. I'd prefer not to have three different brokerage firms I'm working with.
Mm-hmm.
So if I were to choose just one, like what are different factors to consider when deciding between these different brokerages?
Okay. So there's two things I want to make sure we cover here is, do you have a financial advisor or not? So are you self managing or you have someone managing for you?
Okay.
And then also the second thing is my biggest issue with which custodian I would choose, and that's customer service.
Mm.
Absolutely, hands down, the number one thing I look for in a custodian relationship, and I have, options for several, is the customer service. And there are some brokerage firms that are so difficult to deal with if you're trying to, make a change, move an address, change a beneficiary, something like that. It's just so hard to fill out the paperwork. Versus some are just so beautiful to work with. They will go above and beyond to help you make a change. They're quick to make a change. Also, the interface, which I would consider also customer service, of how you see everything and where everything is when you're logged in, and the ease of use of just the interface is also important. So I find that there is a wide spectrum of what that looks like for custodians. And then let's talk about the advisor versus non-advisor platform. If you are working with multiple financial advisors at different custodians, this creates a problem, which I often see at the end of the year. If I'm not involved in the investment side of a client's investments, but then at the end of the year, I get all the 1099s, I can tell these advisors don't talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not one coordinated plan happening when you've got multiple advisors, and they're also not talking to me about the tax efficiency of these accounts. And so every year it happens to somebody or multiple people where there's a lot of tax consequences related to activity inside of an investment account, and it snowballs across advisors, and nobody told the client and nobody ran that by me either as far as tax efficiency. And now we got a big tax bill nobody was expecting.
Mm.
So I really think that if you're just getting started, start with one account and get comfortable. And if you have a chance to work with a good financial advisor, I highly recommend starting a relationship like that, because oftentimes you have feelings about something related to something multiple family members might be telling you or friends, and a financial advisor can really take a step back and give you kind of some really clear advice as far as hands off. And I think that's really helpful. And I don't think there is too small of amount of money to start with a financial advisor. We don't have any limits on or minimums as far as who we work with.
Mm-hmm.
We work with, small accounts and very, very large accounts. And my opinion about working with a financial advisor is I believe everybody should have access to financial advice.
Mm-hmm.
And if all the custodians and big dogs and financial advisors are saying you got to have at least $500,000 or $1 million to work with me, but you're trying to get to the point where you have that kind of money, you need financial advice to get there.
Yeah.
I just believe in financial advice access. And so I work with, just opening up a small account, $3,000, or, I've got 8-figure accounts too. So we just, and I really enjoy working with the young people like you, because young people really want to get started in good habits of
Yeah.
building wealth. And I think a great way to do that is to work with someone who can help you.
All right. Well, that was really good insight. Thank you for answering my questions. I hope we provided some information that was helpful to you guys today. As always, if you have any further questions or anything else you want to know about us, you can always go to our website and email us. And we also have merch there too.
Merch. And also we've got YouTube and a good amount of subscribers now where we could subscribe, ask us questions.
Oh, yeah.
And thank you for watching
Thank you for
and
watching.
listening.
We'll see you next time.